Hello everyone, Namaste, greetings, Namaskaram. Please say a prayer with me, the Our Father prayer, and we will say a chant. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Thou is the power and the glory forever and ever. Amen. Om Shanti. Let's do a chant together, a yogic chant together. So put your right hand on top of your left hand, as so. You can be sitting on the floor cross-legged or sit in a chair cross-legged like myself, and repeat after me. Asatu ma sagamaya tamasu ma judigamaya. With your mom, Gretam Gamaya. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Hello everyone, hi all. Nice to see you, dear viewers. Wherever you are in the world, you're very welcome to the first official talk by the Light Movement. Hope you're all doing fine wherever you are in the world, in Ireland, in Great Britain, the United States of America, Russia, Middle East, India, China, Australia. We all welcome you here to these talks in the Light Movement. As I said, this is our first video, and I'm very excited to put this on YouTube, my first video channel on this. And this movement is a spiritual movement from spiritual grounding, but it welcomes everyone in, religious people, non-religious people, spiritual people, non-spiritual people, atheists, agnostics, non-religious, whatever you want to call yourself. I myself, I am neither this or that, frankly. You know, I will talk a bit about my background in a moment, but you know, I don't really subscribe or identify with one religion or system of faith or belief. I believe that I'm neither this nor that, or all together. You know, I'm Hindu, I'm Catholic, I'm Protestant, I'm whatever, you know, but at the same time I'm not them also, because I don't want to get identified with these things, because you know, people start to form groups and things around it. So I'm an open person. But this is about the Light Movement, so it's an introduction and talk about the Light Movement. So we'll talk about where the Light Movement, the idea of the Light Movement come from, a bit of background about myself, what I envisage for the Light Movement as well. So I just suppose, starting off with myself, I come from a small town in the west of Ireland, in Europe, a small town called Clifton in Connemara, and I was born and raised there. I moved to I had an upbringing with a large family, with this large family I had, and and it's like a sea resort town, so I was very blessed to live in the country, in a small town, and be able to go to the beach, with the parents and the family as children, and go into the woods and into the forests and stuff like that when I was a child. So many happy memories and happy thoughts of a beautiful place in Ireland called Connemara. If you know it, or if you haven't ever visited before, I'm sure you will find it a fantastic place for a holiday. It's a great tourist resort as well. Now, my name is Gordon, Gordon Shepherd, um, but I use the avatar name Gordo Flash, so for the light movement in the talks. So, feel welcome to call me Gordo if you like, or call me Gordon, whichever you wish to call me by. That's totally fine with me. Yeah, I just use the Gordo Flash name, Gordo, as an avatar representative of the light movement, a kind of a messenger, as it were. So, some, most spiritual leaders, they take up avatar names, don't they? And I think, it kind of relates closely to my first name, Gordon. You drop the en at the end, and you end with a O, Gordo. So it has a bit of a ring to it, doesn't it? So that's me. I'm 44 years old. Um, I've moved from Clifton. I've went to college, and I have a background in computer science. My mom was Catholic, and my dad was Englishman. Um, we were churchgoers back in the day. They were kind of religious people. Like good upright, living, and bringing us up and rearing us up like in as Christians. But not to identified religion as such. But my mum cleaned the church, and in my early years we did go to church every Sunday, kind of thing. So yeah, and I left home around an early when I was about 16. I went to college to computer science for 4 years and got a degree in that. Now, I didn't ever get a job in that profession, because I pursued other things in my life. I worked on a bit of IT, software support. Um, I've also done various jobs as well in my life. I just name a few. Saving up for college. I remember in the early days. I used to work in the I think the hotel in Clifton. The hotels and restaurants in Clifton as a kitchen porter, or an accommodation cleaner for the holiday homes in Clifton, saving my money for college. And I went to college then in Letterkenny in Donegal, and university in Limerick City in Ireland, in computer science. Because I always had a passion for games. I loved playing computer games and computers, and I loved to be this next, IT whiz kid, that could be the next billionaire, to make loads of money like Bill Gates. So they were my idols, Bill Gates, and the IT, boom, the dot-com boom, but that's when I was in college, like, studying such things. But I never got a job, or I never opened a business in it as such. I always wanted to, but I always kind of got into other jobs and other interests as such. So a few of my jobs was like restaurants in Clifton growing up, and then had various jobs then as I even had general labour job in construction for a couple of months in Galway City. I was even a car washer at one stage. I worked on a boat, would you believe it? As well, on the Loch Fjord there at Leenane. I worked in a shop as a shop assistant. So I would just ground myself as just a common person, an average guy. I wouldn't say my IQ is particularly high. I would nearly say it's below average, to be honest with you. But nonetheless, I don't, measure myself, my smart. I don't identify myself with how smart I am, but how conscious I am, and that's a measurement that cannot be measured by man. So, just to have a little talk about the light movement itself. I was never big into spirituality or religion. I was like, I had no religion, no faith. I didn't believe in anything. Because I went to a church background, and then it was just basically singing ancient songs, and reading some stuff out of the scriptures about the Romans and Christ, and the cruelty, and of what they did to Christ on the cross, and some celebrations like Christmas time and Easter time, Lent, and the rest. So religion, the church was never gave me an appetite or a taste to really get involved or get really interested in it. Unfortunately, it never really kind of made me better myself, or give me inner tools, or spiritual tools like meditation, or yoga, or anything like that, or self-knowledge. I didn't know anything about that knowledge. It was just reading from a book. You go to church, you sing a few songs, and that's about it. So I went to college, and I was just like everyone else, not into religion at all. And like we all have in our life, we all go through trials and tribulations. And I'd say I went through a few dark days myself, like we all have, and it's no big deal. We all go through these moments in life. And I went through a particularly rough patch in my life. Where I was suffering a little bit with my mental health issues at the time. I finished college, and I had no work, had no job, and I found it very lonely living in the city. I was living in Limerick City. I found it very lonely. By myself, and that hurt me in the pain. And I suppose a few things happened along the way in life, a few dark things here and there, where it didn't help my well-being or my mental health. My outlook on life was like, wasn't particularly that healthy at that time. I was young, I was in my 20s, and I suppose I wasn't that rich billionaire that I wanted to be after college, I guess. So I kind of slumped there a little bit for a while, until I kind of said, enough is enough. I want to look for answers. I was always a person that had something spiritual within me, but I didn't label it as spirituality or religion or anything like that. But I always thought there's more to life than what meets the eye. I always thought, like, that we're there's something more. I thought, like, there's signs out there, there's supernatural force out there that you can actually you can do brilliant things with, psychic powers or whatever. I thought there was something there, and I never knew anything about spirituality, or even the finer goodness of religion. I didn't know the power of it either. All I knew from religion was organizing the church, of just singing songs, which is okay, and just reading some scriptures, and that's more or less it. But it wasn't enough to really grab my interest and attention, and passion for. So I suppose when I got a little bit depressed in life, I wanted to seek more answers, and I was always trying to seek answers to things. Why are we here? What's the meaning of life? Why is this thing happening to me? Why am I unpopular? Why haven't I got loads of friends around me? Why am I lonely? Why is this? Why do people not like me? All of these things that young person struggles and goes through after their teenage years, in their 20s, trying to find your identity, I suppose, or a bit of soul searching. I came to a point where I was suffering a bit, and I was looking for answers, and I came across teachings in a book. I read a book called I think the Happiness by the Dalai Lama, that my mum had, and I read that, and it kind of helped me in my depression. It kind of helped me to look for answers and solutions out within myself rather than outside myself. And at that point I was suffering a little bit, from moods and from depression, and I was desperate at that stage to look for any solutions to help my well-being. So I read the book, and it gave me a lot of pointers about Buddhism and life in general, and happiness. The two things I can take away from that book I have learned was tolerance and patience. I think they were the underlining words of importance: tolerance and patience. So that gave me more tolerance of life and more patience to myself. And these are just virtues, just the basic virtues to grasp. And that led, to me to lead to my betterment. So I just want to thank the Dalai Lama first of all for, you know, for that book, that great book that introduced me, I think, to spirituality, to start me on that journey. And when after reading that book, I then had an interest in spirituality and monks and Buddhism and stuff like that. So I did a search on Google, and I came up with a few spiritual leaders and teachers talking about things. But I remember I came across a video by Mr. Sadhguru, or Master Sadhguru, a yoga master, and he was talking about in a conference on YouTube, I think, for an hour long with a big audience, and the stuff that he said just resonated with me just so much. It just felt so true and so right. And he mentioned the concept of spirituality, saying spirituality is something that's not physical, and it's beyond ourselves, but it's within ourselves. It's non-physical dimension. And then he mentioned about well-being, and he kept repeating yoga. How it can transform you and make you into make you into a full-fledged human being. And I remember those statements, those early statements, a full-fledged human being, and fulfilling your life's potential and reaching your full potential and becoming realized, and all those buzzwords and keywords and the word spirituality, and particularly the word yoga. He was always talking good about. It really kind of brought my interest into this thing called yoga. And my concept of yoga, I thought it was something where you just went to a studio down the road and you just did a few twists and turns. I'm from Ireland, and that's all I knew about yoga. We were never told about yoga in school, never told about yoga in society. No one in the family ever mentioned it, but I did, I did hear about yoga, through, just as buzzwords, in the general public, but not that I knew of anything of it. I didn't even know that yoga was a spiritual technology or a spiritual science. So I got interested in that. He described yoga and the benefits of yoga and the power of yoga, and I just kept watching more and more of his videos, and I just got more and more taken in by it. Yeah, so my concept of yoga was basically, it's like a sissy thing, only girls do it, or they do it in studios, and it's like they sit down and become one, and they make noises and do twists and turns with their body, and that's all it is really. And I thought it was kind of a very feminine thing, that a boy wouldn't be doing that kind of thing, more macho than that. But I looked at more of his videos, and I said to myself, I want to try this. So I signed up for his Upper Yoga with his disciple or devotee, Miss Shaloka from India, and she's a yogini herself, a yoga or a yoga instructor, as it were, or a teacher, or a yogini, and she did a class online called Upper Yoga, and daily practices every day, waking up early in the morning. I remember getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and I'm not an early riser, and back then, still haven't at the moment actually, but back then it was like I started the online classes with her on Zoom, and it was very affordable, and I gave it a go. And I remember waking up at something like 5 o'clock, and I was literally freezing cold, dark outside, raining, wet. I was waking up, basically very falling asleep, and trying to wake myself up, and 5 minutes left, hurry and get on the computer and get to the class, and she'd be there, and she'd just go through the chant that I went through with you here at the start of this at this video, truth, untruth, the truth chant. And she talked about yoga, and she talked about diet, and she gave us meditations and yoga practices that we can do, like yoga namaskaram, And I tried yoga namaskaram, and it was like, oh, I couldn't do it at all for the first couple of days. In the first couple of weeks, I was getting better and better at it. I still haven't perfected it. It's like my back is just not designed in the West. Like, we're designed in the West to sit down, aren't we? Like, I'm going on a computer all day. But like on that live session from India, it was like, kneeling on the floor, or cross-legged on the floor, watching, her showing us Saguru's videos and the yoga meditations and the yoga techniques like yoga namaskaram and Ishka Kriya as well. So I did those for a month, as long as the program was on the internet, and it took away my depression. I had a little bit of anxiety as well, and it took away my anxiety as well, and it lifted my depression, and I felt really good about myself. My diet was better, I was cutting out bad food, I was exercising, I was getting up early in the morning doing the yoga, and at night time I was doing Ishikriya twice a day. And I felt like, wow, I'm not the mind, I'm not the body. Whatever that was making me depressed, these thoughts, I separated from my consciousness, from myself. And I felt really alive, really at peace with myself. And my depression was gone, my health was improving, I had a great outlook on life. At that time I was living at home with my mom, and her husband sadly passed away a few years previously. But my mom wasn't very well at the time, and I was living with her, and I was just doing up the house for her, and just giving her company, and just helping her the best I could. She wasn't very well sometimes, and she got a bit better, and I think she was a little bit moody and depressed herself, and she was in her old years as well. So, but unfortunately, her health did deteriorate, and she got a bit of anxiety, and I tried to get more involved in the spiritual technology and science at that stage. So I did yoga, and I talked to her about yoga every day, and I did self-knowledge classes in Galway about your inner work on yourself, like self-observation, and self-remembrance and stuff like that. And I used to talk to her in the morning time, and we used to read books on spiritual books together, and I showed her a few yoga techniques, the Om chant, the Aum. I did that with her, and a bit of breathing as well. And I was so excited about yoga and spirituality at that time. I was like on an all-time high, and I think her depression and her anxiety, I think it faded away. It got away. I think she was a bit better for it, and her quality of life had improved. But unfortunately, her health did deteriorate, and especially when COVID-19 came around, I think a lot of old people, a lot of elderly people, they suffered during that time, and because they couldn't go out, so they couldn't go out to the shops, or couldn't walk out like they normally could, and I think that had a devastating effect on people's mental health, even my own. But I could imagine from an elderly point of view, they're more vulnerable, and I think that kind of made her housebound, and I think that had she did have an impact on her mental health, and she started suffering. She developed anxiety there again, and then she got pains in her stomach, the poor thing, and she went through a lot of suffering with pains in her stomach, for about a year and a half, and she'd get sick maybe from pains in her stomach, and then she might get up for a couple of weeks or a couple of months, and then she might get sick again. And at that stage I kind of let her be, and not to interrupt talking too much spiritual stuff about yoga and stuff to her, give her a break until she recovered again, but unfortunately, I think COVID was coming to an end at that stage, and she took the COVID booster virus vaccine, booster, and I remember she took that. When she came home, she was never the same. She just went to bed after the next day or so, and she was just more or less bedridden after that, and her pains in her stomach increased, and she went to the hospital. I think she collapsed, and her hemoglobin was low, you know, and she collapsed one time, you know, in the TV room, and the ambulance came, and she didn't want to go to the hospital. She didn't want to go to the ambulance, so so I said no, she's okay, and they took tests and all the rest, and they said she should go to hospital. And I said okay, well she'll go to hospital the next day, you know, and so she rested in bed, you know, and she went to hospital and they did tests on her again, but they couldn't find anything wrong with her, and she was complaining of this stomach pain. And she went to and fro from the hospital over a period of, you know, a couple of months, and her condition deteriorated, and you know, she was then like, she went to hospital, and again, and I told them about the pain in her stomach, and I was very concerned about her, and it really hurt me a lot. See my mum suffer through those years, gave me a lot of pain. You know, because she wasn't herself, the poor thing, and you know, we know that when we have pain in our body, you know, we're not 100%. Like, our well-being isn't great. If we have pain if we even have pain in our stomach, we have a stomach ache, you know, we don't feel good. You know, our mental health, our mood is not good. The poor thing, and you know, she was elderly, and God bless her, you know, she went through a lot of suffering and a lot of pain to survive and clench on to life, you know. And she still, you know, she still got up in the morning, and she was always, you know, a very strong woman, a survivor, a fighter, you know, never giving in, very strong woman. And you know, she'd still walk down the town even though she was very ill, you know, and very sick, and she'll still make dinner, but she'd go to bed straight afterwards, you know. And I got very concerned and worried for her that time, you know. And you know, I felt helpless, you know, see my mum, you know, deteriorate, but I never thought she was, you know, it was going to end the way it was going to end, where she went to the hospital again, and they found out she had cancer in, you know, her intestine, and that's why they couldn't find it from the tests, from the endoscopic tests, you know, previously that year. It was kind of hidden in her intestine, and it spread to her, you know, kidneys, the cancer, and her lungs as well. And the poor thing, and you know, she was in a lot of pain. I remember, you know, at home, and she went back to hospital, and you know, I never thought she was gonna die. I thought she was just, you know, sick. You know, I thought she was just sick, because it was like normal. She was like that for a year and 2 years, you know, in and out, in pain, and suffering. But we had good times as well. I drove her down to the beach, and you know, we talked together, we watched TV together, and we talked spiritual. We did some spiritual work together about, you know, about God, you know, and about the afterlife. You know, that there's life after death. You know, and I was reading books, and books that I was reading I shared with her and stuff like that. And we said the Our Father together and things like that. But unfortunately, she passed away, and I didn't expect it. Like, I think my subconscious didn't want to believe it, you know, because it was just such a shock to me. And you know, when it happened, you know, after that, she passed away in hospital, you know, and I think her last words, she said, I wasn't there at the time, but I was there the day before she passed away, you know, and you know, she was just there, you know, but she really wasn't, you know, she wasn't 100%. And I just, you know, I visited her, and I just left her in peace, and I say I visit you the next day, you know. But I got a call that morning from my sister saying she passed away, and my sister said that, you know, she wanted to leave Earth, or her last words, she wanted to leave Earth. There was 2 nurses beside her at her bedside. They lit a candle. I'm very grateful to those nurses for lighting a candle and being there with my mum in her final hours. And I think she, you know, she wanted the pain to take the pain away from her, you know, so they gave her morphine, and she passed away then, you know, and that was the last words on her lips, you know, you know, you know, to leave planet Earth. And that was a kind of recognition to me that she was a little bit, you know, she believed in the afterlife. She believed that she wasn't the mind or the body, you know. So she left with a smile on her face, they said, and when I seen her, she had a smile on her face. So I think she left the body happy, and I took tips from Seguru about, and I told her about it, and I gave her a book called Death as well. In one breath, we come into this world in one breath. We leave this earth, and I think she might have taken comfort from that to be happy in her moment of leaving the body, where that's a moment that's so important because it's what you take with you. It's what your consciousness takes with you when you leave the body, and that can multiply a million times over. So I'm sure she went to heaven, just for those words, and for that. So thank you, Seguru, for that. So she was happy when she left the body. She had a smile on her face, and the poor thing, she was around 80 years old, and she's only a small woman, but she reared a huge family, a big family of 15 children, 5 brothers and 10 sisters, and she was always there, and she was a great mother, and we come from a poor background, we always got by, and she always looked after her children number one. She put her children number one, and she lived a very basic, humble hermit lifestyle, you could say. If you look to her possessions, she had no possessions. Her room was like just a bed and maybe a locker and a couple of books. That's about it. She only had a few clothes to wear, but she had no luxuries. She was just basically living for her children, I think. She lived through her children, and I believe she had a very happy life with her husband and through our children, all growing up together in a big family. Of course, we had our moments in the family, like all families do, ups and downs, but I think she wanted a big family, and I think she was happy, and she gave her life to her children, and that was like her practice of dharma, selflessness, as it were. She probably didn't know, but it was a spiritual practice in itself, really, looking after her kids. So I think that's where she gained most of her happiness from. I once said, Mom, you must have been a nun in your past life, because you live such a a simple lifestyle. So yeah, that was my mum. She was religious. She was into the church and teachings of God and Christ. She loved Master Jesus, and we loved talking. I talked to her about the Master Jesus, and she loved Master Jesus. I remember I bought a picture of Jesus for her, the year of that Christmas, the year before she passed away. So she had that in her room, and and a picture of the Divine Mother Mary. I gave her a picture of the Divine Mother Mary on her locker, and yeah, they were happy times for myself, but also sad times for myself, especially when she passed away. Because when she passed away, I felt lonely, because we were very close together, and I felt in my heart that I wanted her to become more happy, and I wanted her to take away all her depression and all her anxiety, because sometimes she got into mood swings. And I said, okay, as soon as she gets better, I'm going to do yoga with her, and we're going to practice, yoga kriya together, Ishka kriya together, and we're going to do some simple yoga techniques that she can do, and I'm going to do some inner work on her and some self-knowledge. And I was saying, by the summertime, I want her to be dancing and happy and full of life and full of energy, and that's what I had in mind. That was in my heart for her, but sadly, her cancer took her away from me, and took her from her family. And afterwards, for the next year or two, I could say I went through a lot of suffering myself. Again, I went down to a downward spiral where I would blame myself that, I should have been there in her final weeks of her life more. I should have looked after her more, I should have been, because I did remember I left a couple of times, even though there was family in the area, and my brother was living in the house, like, there's people around her, and she had a phone and all the rest. But I felt like when I did go out, I didn't realise how bad she was. I didn't realise her, she had a limited time left. Doctors didn't say anything. They didn't know she had cancer. She didn't tell me she was in that much pain, I think she hid it from me a lot. I think she didn't want me to go through the suffering, to see her suffer. So I think she kind of kept it under wraps, kind of kept it secret and quietly. But like at the final week or two of her life, I could see it really happen where she needed help and she wasn't eating properly, and she was losing weight, and she felt like she wasn't there anymore. She was just it was like she gave up. Her body was just giving her too much suffering. Her mind as well. She went through a lot of difficult times as well in her life. With her family as well, and her mind. I think she was suffering in her mind, and her poor body was very weak and very feeble, and she was suffering from cancer as well, and all the rest. And I kind of bet myself up that I wasn't there all the time for her in the final week. I went away a couple of times and I come back, and every time I came back, she was in a worse state. And when I seen her the last time, I rang up the ambulance, and I said it's best that you go to a hospital so they can look after you, because you're a bit weak at the moment, and just in case something happens, I want you to have the best care, in hospital, so the doctors around will know what to do, to look after you, because lo and behold, if something were to happen at home and you collapsed and or you died or something like that, I'd never forgive myself, but if you were in hospital and they could find out what's wrong and they can give you they help you medically, so I did that, and the ambulance came, and she went to hospital, and I visited her a few times in hospital, and she said, you're doing well, and she said, she says, oh, you'll find a girl and all this kind of thing, and then she said to me one time about, she had a dream, and she said, Ramadan, she said, or something, and she said a dream where everyone was walking towards, there was a big crowd of people, and she said it was so real, she said, Gordon, it was so real, So I think she had a mystical experience in her final week of her life, but I don't think she wanted me around her either. She kind of was like giving up at that stage, and she felt like she was going further and further away from me, and I didn't even suspect that she didn't have that long. I thought she'd get better, and I thought it was just like normal, so I did beat myself up a little bit over the next year or so, regretting that, I should have done more in her final weeks and all the rest. But I think that's really just my ego, my own self-consideration, saying, you have to be the perfect son, don't you, and you have to do everything, and all these regrets, I could have done this and said that to her, and all these things, and it was sad times to see her, like when she was in hospital, because poor woman, she was trying to eat something, she couldn't eat something, because they wanted her body to be cleaned for the camera to check her body, and I felt so helpless, and she was in pain, didn't know she had cancer and all the rest, and that year after her death, I must have cried. I never cried so much. I never cried so much in my life that year. For my own self, I'm blaming myself that I could have been there before, but I know it was just self-consideration, and sorry. I know it was just self-consideration, but it didn't help the fact. So I got, very hurt by that, in the year after that, and I think it distracted me from, doing my yoga properly. I kind of, things happened in my life, situations unfolded that weren't good, for me, and that I took a tumble, you could say. It was a very dark point in my life, the darkest time in my life after her death, when a lot of things happened to me. Like, it's true, the old saying, when it rains, it pours, and oh boy, did it pour that year, and it poured like nothing before. Everything happened that was just wrong in my life, just totally broke down, like we all go through things, in our lives, but it was just one thing after next, just a full-on assault of karma, you could say, and coupled with my mum's death and missing her, and blaming myself that I wasn't the perfect son at our time of death, and all this nonsense, was just my own negative thinking and my own self-created suffering, you could say. And I'm glad now that I think I can see through that now, and I'm at a stage now where I'm on the uptrend, getting back into spirituality again. So I started spirituality 5 years ago, you could say, in 2020. I did some yoga, I did some self-knowledge, I did some meditations, and did lots of reading from books as well. I didn't do a lot of meditation yet, I want to get more into that. But I did read a lot of spiritual books, and it really helped my well-being, my mental health, giving me a kind of new excitement for life, a new appetite for life. And when my mum's at home, I was telling her about the light movement, that I was going to create this movement called the light movement. And everything that I knew about getting through my own, pain and sorrows and sufferings, I was going to apply to the light movement as well, for the well-being of people, for the betterment of people's well-being. So I said, look, the light movement is about people's well-being and their mental health, to improve their well-being and their mental health through spiritual science and technology, such as classical yoga, self-knowledge, meditation, and spiritual knowledge, spiritual stories, So I embarked on that journey over the last 5 years, and this is all came to a culmination of here I am right here today, telling you my life story. The beginnings of the light movement. I came from a place of a bit of suffering, you could say, where I was looking for answers and looking for solutions, and spirituality was there for me. And I would remember, like, the book that I read from the Dalai Lama and Sadhguru on YouTube, that started my journey. And in a newspaper, looking at a class, a course on awakening your consciousness, of self-knowledge, Trigastimus, I did that as well. So it was like the divine was there, or my guardian angel was there, kind of guiding me, out of those trials and tribulations, and I wanted to apply what I learned to humanity, to you, dear reader and viewer out there. I wanted to apply that, so that's why I set up the Light Movement, which is a spiritual organization grounded on spirituality, but it welcomes everyone in. It welcomes everyone in, people that are non-religious as well. But I wanted it for a better life, a better quality of life, to improve people's well-being, towards their ultimate well-being, to improve their mental health, and for their spiritual health and spiritual ascension, or transformation, like, realization, enlightenment and liberation of their consciousness, to become a full-fledged human being, to have a great quality of life. So I set that up, so I did, and I've been working on it for the last 4 or 5 years, and this is my first video on YouTube that I've put out there to share with you, dear viewers, that spirituality works, and it's a great technology and science that I think the word has been abused and misused a lot, and its association, both of them, in religion and spirituality, unfortunately. But I can tell you categorically from a direct experience, from my own truth, it took away my my depression and my anxiety, thanks to Sadhguru's inner engineering program, which I'd done as well back in the day. That really helped me, and it took me out of took away my that anxiety that I had, and it helped my well-being and my mental health. And without that, I don't know where I would be today. I'd be lost in my thoughts. You could say could be in a worse situation. So I wanted to use what I experienced, from my own direct experience of truth. I wanted to share that with the world, and I wanted to set up the Light Movement. So the Light Movement wants to do many things. It wants to set up charities, for the well-being of our health, our mental health, our physical health, our spiritual health, but also charities for the environment, the outside world. Like, I'm a big follower, an advocate of the Save Soil movement. Mr. Sadhguru's Save Soil movement of preserving the soil, because our soil is deteriorating, and preserving our soil because we come from the soil and we go back to the soil, so we're part of the soil and we get our food and nourishment from the soil. And he was pointing out that our soil's nutrients and quality diminishes. It diminishes. And if that makes it, the food then diminishes, and then it's not as good, and nutrients not as good as it used to be, and then humanity starts to diminish and gets weaker. So I'm a follower of that, but I also want to, set up my own, charities as well, and ideas on the environment, and to bring awareness of the Save Soil movement as well. So the Light Movement also wants to make a community of like-minded people, in their area, their local area. So first of all, we want to be a school based in Ireland. I want to become a yoga teacher eventually, and go to India and do the training to become a yoga teacher, come back to Ireland and bring that spiritual technology back to Ireland to help people's well-being in Ireland, the Irish people and the people of Ireland, to help their mental health and their well-being, just as it did for me, from the teacher Shloka, that she was my instructor and my teacher that initiated me into these practices. And I want to share that with people of Ireland, that it can be tremendous benefit to the people of Ireland and to the world. So I wanted to create a physical school, a centre as it were, in Ireland, as a charity that teaches yoga, genuine classical yoga and self-knowledge, so we do inner work on ourselves, and meditation, and upright living, and a better quality of life, and a spiritual lifestyle of living with the earth, Mother Earth, in peace and harmony, as a collective community, so that we can actually become full-fledged human beings, or to reach our full potential, as it were. So that's the school that I want to create, and I might need help with that in the future. But I'm a poor man. I'm not rich or anything like that, but that's my dream, for Ireland, is to at least have a centre called the Light Movement that can give these technologies that are affordable and even for free as a charity to the people of Ireland. So we can evolve humanity as well, and for the bigger picture as well, for the whole planet, for the well-being of the earth, planet Earth, and for the animals, the animal kingdom, and for the climate. Also, the Light Movement has an interest in setting up a eco community, or a eco economy that is independent from the modern day economy that we live in today. An economy that's once again, it's a community. It could be off the grid, or it could be on the grid. It could be living off the land, or not off the land. So it'll have interaction with the old world, I call it, which is the modern world that we live in today, of being molded in society and the education system to see money or wealth as the only avenue to success, to have a successful life. You must get your qualifications so you can get a good job, and then from that you get a good living, and then from that you'll be happy. I don't think that came true for me, and I don't think that came true for a lot of people. So I wanted a different way of living for people, based on, core values of upright living, that's peaceful, that's living in harmony, where people can all get together and share resources, and help one another, and that's, law abiding and peaceful and all the rest, but a bit independent from the system, hopefully I want to do a talk after this video on it that will go into it in more detail. So I'll leave that till then. But for now, I just wanted to give an overview of the light movement. So I wanted to become a school. I wanted to create a movement, a new economy, which I call the New World. So a new economy where people will have a better quality of life, for better living, as it were, and we'll talk about that in the next video. And I want to create charities out of the light movement, and I want to do also bespoke, unique teachings and spiritual practices, of the light movement. So it'll be teachings and spiritual practices of the light movement for your well-being and your mental health and your spiritual ascension or realization. So that could be my own meditations I make up that I experience myself, as truth, or it might be, to do with the mind as well. Teachings or practices of the mind to help your mental health as well, and also to do talks on the light movement, like I'm doing here right now. So this channel is for these three things, you could say. It's for talking about the light movement talks, which I call it, which I'm just doing a general talk to you about the light movement, about what we envisage for the future in the world, and we might discuss topics that are important to the light movement, that are close to his heart, and our recommendations and all the rest. So that light movement talks videos, and then we want to do videos on teachings, light movement teachings and spirituality. So it might be teachings on self-knowledge, inner work, that are unique to the light movement, that will benefit your well-being and your spiritual health. And then we want to do videos on the light movement community, or the light movement eco community or eco economy, of living a different type of lifestyle, that welcomes all creeds, all faiths, all nationalities, all races of people. You don't have to be spiritual or religious or anything of the such, and you can be, but we want to create a community of people, like-minded people like that want something different, or from the old world, that we call it, from the 9-to-5 job and the survival, as it were, but to want more for themselves and their family, to live in harmony and to kind of evolve as a full-fledged human being, to reach their full potential. So I want to work on that as well, where I'll talk more about that in the next video, but I want to work on that. So those three things is really what this channel will be used for. It'll be on the light movement talks, what we would envisage for yourself, dear viewer, and the world. The light movement teachings and spiritual practices, that you can take away for free, that'll help your mental health and well-being and spiritual health. And we'll talk about how to set up a eco community of like-minded people. And I really want to act on this as well. I mean, I've been working on this for a couple of years now, and I think I'm starting to mature to a stage where I really need to put my words into action, and this is an example of putting my words into action, of creating this first video on YouTube to help start this movement, to help it on its feet, to give it some momentum out there, and to give people an idea what the light movement is about, where it's from, and a bit about myself, how it was created, what its values are. We believe in the values of the human spirit, you know, the good, the good word, um, we believe in, yoga, um, classical yoga, um, from India, from sacred nation of India, in its purest, uncorrupted form, as it were, um, and also self-knowledge of the ancient masters from Greece, and meditation, and perhaps some mystical work as well that we can do. So they are my my areas of interest. Um, and if you ask me, I'm actually open to all um, spirituality, including religion. There's aspects of religion I like. I like Master Jesus' teachings. I found them very empowering and very good, like his teachings of forgiveness, his teachings of compassion, um, and the Christian teachings of um, salvation, and penance, to repent for our sins, and things like that. So religion has a place in my heart as well, and I believe in that. I still use the term, the word God as well in the Light Movement as something that is undescribable, we can't define, but it's in us all. It's not outside of us, but it's in us. It's like our higher self that can lead us to higher levels of being, as it were. So I use the word God interchangeably within ourselves to be realized, as we are, God's creation. He made us in His image, and I'll talk about duality as well in the next video, about light and about dark, both sides of duality, to give people a fair assumption and how it applies to the world that we live in today. So I suppose that rounds it up, basically, for an introduction to the Light Movement, a bit about myself, a bit about my aspirations and what I envisage, for myself, for Ireland and for the world, to create a centre, in my lifetime for teachings and for a new way of living that will help create a new world economy and a new world of peace, and to address a lot of the concerns of the old world, I call it, a lot of the dark, that goes there, that we can actually use spiritual technology to help do that. And I believe, if we didn't have the spiritual technology, I don't know where we would be today. It does so much for us, even to people that are not spiritual religious. Just all the good things that happen in life, a lot of that came from spirituality, directly or indirectly. So I just want to say my heartfelt thank you to the Ishka Foundation, to Sadhguru, to Shloka, to all the YouTubers in America and all over the world that are starting their spiritual journeys on YouTube, and they're helping in their own little way about healing and self inner work. And I wish you all the best. The Light Movement is your friend, all of your friends, and whatever we can do to assist your movements. The Brahma Kumaris movement, we love them. We love BK Shivani. I listen to her YouTube videos all the time. They really help me a lot, and her meditations. And I love the talks by Sadhguru, and I watched all the YouTube and podcast video of Shloka. I think they're fantastic. Thank you very much. And we wish you and bless you with great success and happiness and spiritual divinity in your journey of evolution as well. And whatever the Light Movement can do to be assistance to you, we are your friend in that. And so yeah, just those three movements are my top movements. It would be the Ishka Foundation, Ananda Worldwide, that was created, you could say, by Yogananda in the 1920s. He created a movement called the self-realization community. And I think Swami Ji, Kriyan Yoga, Swami, I used to listen to his videos, and he was a disciple of Yogananda, and they created the Ananda International, and I love the talks that he about God. I think that really introduced me to the word God, you know, so that really helped me, so I thank him wherever he is now in the formless realm. Thanks so much, sir, for your great YouTube's videos and your contribution to humanity's spiritual ascension, um, and for your brilliant talks about God and and everything spiritual. So, and also the Brahma Kumaris, to everyone that works there, their great work, and to all the volunteers of the Ishka Foundation, all the volunteers to all these spiritual organizations. Because if we didn't have these spiritual organizations and movements, they do so much. They've set up so much charities, like the Ishka Foundation planted so much trees. They, open up schools in India and rural India. They help children, education programs. They make spirituality affordable, like yoga. They spread awareness of spirituality of yoga around the world. I never would have gotten the teachings of yoga if it wasn't for Master Sadhguru on YouTube talking about it, and crafting these brilliant programs that I highly recommend doing, called Inner Engineering online, to start you in your yoga journey. So definitely check that out. It's affordable and it works, and that's the truth. And all the volunteers at the Ishka Foundation, thanks so much for all your efforts. Wouldn't happen without you, and from all the spiritual movements out there. Thank you very much. So I will leave you all, and I'll make a new video called based on the Light Movement's eco community or eco economy. So let's close with a chant, a yogic chant. Put your top hand over your left, kneel on the floor, cross your legs sitting down, and just repeat after me. Asatu ma sagamaya tamasu ma judikamaya. With your mom Gratam Gamaya. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. May peace, love, and happiness be with you always. Om Shanti.